Welcome, listeners, to another episode of the Health and Sports Nexus, where we delve into the fascinating intersection between medical science and athleticism. I'm your host, Martin, and today we have a deep, insightful, and important conversation lined up for you. We're going into the topic of Duchenne muscular dystrophy and examining its connection to the world of sports. Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a serious genetic condition that causes muscles to weaken and break down over time. It mostly affects boys and usually shows up between the ages 2 and 5. One of the earliest signs is difficulty walking, frequent falls, or trouble climbing stairs. Some kids might also have noticeably larger calf muscles. Duchenne muscular dystrophy affects approximately 1 in 3,500 to 5,000 newborn boys worldwide. The condition is caused by mutation in the gene responsible for making dystrophin, which is a protein that helps protect muscles. Without it, muscles gradually get damaged and lose strength. As the disease progresses, it doesn't just affect the arms and legs, it can also impact the heart and lungs. There is currently no cure for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, but treatments like physical therapy, steroids, and specialized care for the heart and lungs can make a big difference. Thanks to medical advances, many people with Duchenne are now living longer, often into their 30s or beyond, compared to the past when life expectancy was much shorter. It's one of the most common and most severe forms of muscular dystrophy, and early diagnosis and care are key to improving quality of life. Our special guest today is Elisabeth Vroom. Elisabeth Vroom is a Dutch orthodontist and dedicated advocate for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Inspired by her son's diagnosis in 1992, in 1994 she founded the Duchenne Parent Project, otherwise said also DPP, in the Netherlands to support research, patient care and improve quality of life. Her efforts helped to double the life expectancy for Duchenne muscular dystrophy patients. In 2005, she also founded the World Duchenne Organization, otherwise said WDO, connecting over 50 global groups. In recognition of her tireless efforts, Elisabeth was appointed officer in the Order of Orange Nassau in January 2024. Although she stepped down as director of Duchenne Parent Project, at that time she remains actively involved as their chair of the World Duchenne Organization, contributing her mission to improve the lives of those affected by Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Her insights are not only valuable for those directly affected by this condition, but also for anyone interested in the broader implications of health in sports. So why, you might ask, we are discussing Duchenne muscular dystrophy in a podcast dedicated to sports? The answer lies in the profound impact that physical activity and sports can have on individuals with muscular dystrophy. Research has shown that while high-intensity exercises might lower muscle damage, carefully controlled physical activity can improve overall health, slow the progression of muscle weakness, and significantly enhance the quality of life for those with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. In today's episode, Elisabeth and I will explore the scientific literature, including studies like the one published in the Sports Journal that highlights the benefits and risks associated with sports for people with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. We will also discuss the pivotal research from the Journal of Neurology that examines the role of exercises in managing symptoms and improving health outcomes for those living with this condition. But mainly, we will answer the questions: is it possible to connect people with Duchenne muscular dystrophy with sports? As we navigate through this complex terrain, we will consider questions like what types of sports or physical activities are most beneficial for individuals with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, how important is community support in enabling individuals with Duchenne to participate in sports, and most importantly, how can sports be a source of empowerment and joy for those with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, allowing them to experience the thrill of the athletic participation. Stick with us as we uncover these layers and more in our conversation with Elisabeth Vroom. Whether you are a coach, healthcare provider, patient, or somebody simply interested in the dynamic field of sports and health, today's discussion promises to offer you new perceptions and valuable insights. So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's dive into the important conversation about Duchenne muscular dystrophy and its connections to the world of sports. Stay tuned and let's welcome our guest, Elisabeth Vroom. Thank you once again that I can be sitting here today with you, Elisabeth.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's really nice to be able to speak about the subjects we both think are important in life.
And I think we can move to the first question which I have prepared. And that could you start by sharing a bit about your journey with Dušan Parent Project and what inspired you to establish it back in '94? Because we know that your son Justus was born with Dušan.
Yes, my son was born in 1990, and he was in fact one of twins, and his twin sister died. And then he appeared really slow in his motor milestones, so I wondered what was wrong. And then in '92, in fact, I myself found in a handbook about medical conditions that it looked like he had Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And we went to a hospital and he did some tests, and indeed the diagnosis was then 92. But I remember that I thought like, well, we still have time, you know. They said they will live till 20, but I thought like, okay, he's 2 now, so we still have time and let's see what we can do. So that was in fact the first thing. And then in '94, I heard that there were parents in the US meeting each other, and I thought, okay, let's go there. And when I went there, they said before the year 2000, if we would collect $40 million, then we could have a cure. Well, I can already, the spoiler is, it didn't work like that. But, so I thought like, okay, there are 20 times more Americans than Dutch, so $2 million are for me to raise before the year 2000. So then I went home and started, and that was the first step, was to set up a foundation, because you can't raise money just for your private person. So we set up a foundation. I think 3 days later, 3 days after I came back from the US, from this meeting in Orlando, which is indeed, we just celebrated last year that it was 30 years ago, again in Orlando, that we were sitting there together. And that is in fact how it started, just very much like raising funds in order to find a cure. And then over the years, it evolved in an organization which also was involved in care and a lot of other issues.
That's an amazing approach, how you managed, because you didn't only fight for your son, but you fought for everybody with Dušan. And it's amazing because you saw an example in the US and you wanted to bring it here in Netherlands. So
yeah, well, it also helped that Justus had this kind of attitude. Justus is my son. This attitude like, what you do for me, you should do for other children as well. So that was kind of a good start. Also to do the things about care and education and all the other things that came after. That I would not only do it for him, but also for the others.
It's an amazing personality. I can hear from you that both of you are fighters. But I need to ask, have you had this personality also in sports? Have you tried any sports, any personal?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, it's funny. Yesterday I presented somewhere and we were discussing hope, because that is what you want to have, right? Hope. Yeah. And then a Dutch writer, Tommy Wieringa, yesterday morning said, in a podcast, by the way, that hope has 2 daughters. One is called anger about the way things are, and the other is courage to see how things can change. And I think that is exactly what it is. Hope that you can change things, and the anger eats you and the courage helps you.
It's so unfortunate now that you cannot see me, but as Elizabeth is speaking, I'm just nodding my head as agreeing with everything she said, because the sentence she used is basically right, and that's the motto of the life. And yeah, without this you cannot do anything, not only in sports but in general.
Exactly.
Yeah, because in the hope, without the hope we cannot do anything.
And the same for the sport, and that's always one of the things definitely which played a role is that I was always a very strong kid, strong little girl. I mean, if you see videos from our holiday when I was little, you see me walking with the boat on my head, you know, this kind of thing. So, and I always felt very secure because I was so strong. And then having a son where you knew, he was not strong and would get weaker and weaker, I even felt like, as we all know, you know, being strong is good for your self-esteem. So I always felt like if you are not so strong, what about your self-esteem? Well, the good news is in Justus, it seems it didn't play a role at all, because nothing wrong with his self-esteem. But for me, it was really like, oh my God, if you're not strong, who are you? What can you do?
Yeah. It's so unfortunate that we can make only one podcast, because I have a feeling we can make series of podcasts with you, not only about your personality, but with your work and everything you have done. But we have to go back to the topic.
Sorry.
No, it's not your fault. I can imagine you have so many stories, and I'm looking forward to hear them. But based on the literature, we have seen significant improvements in the quality of life and life expectancy of Duchenne patients over the past 30 years. Could you discuss some of key milestones or initiatives by DPP and VDO that have contributed to this advancement? Sorry, I would just say that DPP means Duchenne Parent Project and VDO means World Duchenne Organization for our listeners.
Yeah. So, in fact, a lot also there is thanks to Justus. We went to a hospital in the UK, and by that time, people started to speak about using steroids. And then Justus got some Chinese medicines when he was 4, and at once he could climb stairs. So I thought, like, this is what they describe about steroids, you know.
And this was already past the year when he was supposed not to walk and not to climb the stairs again. Am I right?
Yeah, well, he couldn't do it at least at that moment. So then at once we felt like, So I asked my brother, who's a pharmacist, can you check if there are steroids in these Chinese medicines? And there were. And then the doctors in the UK said, very broad-minded, because it was super famous professor who could have said, you idiots, you gave him Chinese medicine, whatever. He said, oh, that's cool, let's give him steroids. So Justus was one of the first children who start at a young age with steroids, which is now the standard of care. So he came back to the Netherlands, was the only boy then getting steroids, and then doctors saw what was the effect and so on. So he's definitely at the early hours of the steroids. And then we in 97, we organized as the Dutch Parent Project, an international conference in Rotterdam, in Hotel New York. And then we discussed all new developments, and we made the first care guidelines for Duchenne ever. And I think that played definitely a role. And from there also, like, giving preventive cardiac medication helped to keep their heart working longer, let's say. A lot of boys die because of cardiac problems. And I think that as a whole thing, with the standards of care, with making sure that the latest research data were used for care, but also by funding research towards
which you have done, basically.
Yeah, which we did, $1 million per year.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah.
For me, it's like a dream world. But thanks to these corticosteroids, that was the big reason why now we can see the big change from being able to live until 20, which was standard 30 years ago, and now being over 40 and still living. Yeah,
it started with the steroids. Then this cardiac medication, the ACE inhibitors, that really makes a difference, and the ventilation.
Yeah.
So, and then you have a cuff assist, that is a machine that helps you cuff, because a lot of boys can't clean at a certain moment, because you also need your muscle to cuff. So they lost their strength to cough, and then if a lot of slime and other dirt stays in your lungs, you get pneumonias, and they died. And now that with a cough assist and ventilation also prolongs life.
But do you think also engaging in sports or any physical activity may have any effects on both physical and mental health of individuals with Duchenne?
Oh, I definitely think so, because also in Duchenne, in Dutch you say rust roest, which means kind of use it or lose it. So if you sit in a wheelchair and you don't use anything anymore, then you see that arm function, for example, is declining very rapidly, not only because of the disease, but also because you don't use it anymore. Yeah. So, for example, the children who go for swimming, wheelchair hockey is quite popular. They maintain their muscle strength longer, but also it's just for all of us, right? It's good for your ego. Exactly. If you have been doing something, or you have been in a competition, or in a team sport. Not all boys are by default team players in Duchenne, but if you are in a wheelchair, when you are in wheelchair hockey, you have to. And then, I don't know where it comes from, but a lot of these boys are super football fans. Wow. Super. Yeah. And I always feel like, oops, that's, it's kind of sad because they can't do it themselves. But apparently they don't mind too much. But also, since not so long, we also really have serious football wheelchair football
That's
in
what I
Netherlands.
wanted to ask, if there are any alternatives to people on wheelchair playing football, basically.
Yeah. So that's PSV from Eindhoven, as some of you may know. They were the first really big organization to do so. Before we had tried to do it as a patient organization to set up wheelchair football like they did in Australia, which was with a kind of between a balloon and a ball, so it was lighter. But nobody really picked it up. But now it's, of course, super cool if it's really at PSV. I mean, that's something else.
Yes.
And then you say, okay, in wheelchair hockey, we also do some football. And we had, you have these machines you can put in front of your wheelchair. So you kind of position your wheelchair in front of the goal. And then the machine gives a huge kick to the ball. And then you can score. So that's also good for the ego.
But do you think in future we can see matches playing 11 people on wheelchair playing against 11 people on wheelchair? Do you think it's
why not?
possible?
Why not? If there are enough players who are interested,
I can be one of them.
Yeah,
I'll be the referee.
But then it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Because usually the kids with Duchenne at a certain moment say, sorry, I don't mind to be referee every now and then, but always that's not such fun. So it would be nice if you would be their referee. Yeah?
Sign me up.
Okay.
But next question, and I will combine it with the topic we are speaking about, because the literature quite often highlights the importance of collaboration between patients and researchers. And how has Duchenne Parent Project facilitated this cooperation together, and maybe what challenges you have personally faced in bringing these two worlds together?
Yeah, well, I think we have been quite fortunate because we invited researchers from the beginning, but also because if you have a lot of money, well, $1 million is quite a bit of money, and you want to spend it on research, you want to make sure that it's going to the best research. You often see, like also in the Netherlands, people raise funds in the Netherlands and then give the money to Dutch researchers, which are not by default the best. It can be that they are good, but especially in rare disease, maybe you were much better off in other countries, or better research on a certain area was done in France or in the US. So I was really kind of trained by a friend of us who was a professor at Harvard, and he said, you really have to be strict because then you earn respect as an organization. If you have a very good screening with reviewers who are at a high level, and you don't give money to the researchers because you like his story or his blue eyes or whatever, then that it's not only important for researchers that they get money, but also from whom they get the money, because that's something for their CV.
Maybe my personal question, what do you think is the country with the best researchers? Because you said Netherlands is not the country.
No, well, no, I have to correct that. By that time when we started, definitely we said, like, we have to give the money to the country where it's best. So there were projects in the Netherlands, but also in France, etc., or Italy, US, UK. And what I want to say is that your funding should not be national. Your funding should be where the research is the best.
Understand.
Coincidentally, the number one researcher in Duchenne is since years a Dutch scientist. So we can't say that the research in the Netherlands is not good. Annemiek Aartsma-Rus is number one on the world ranking for
I can
Duchenne
imagine
research.
It's your friend.
It became my friend.
It became your friend. Yeah, what a coincidence.
Definitely. Yeah.
But all from these aspects like technology, research, and this like technical stuff, which we can get. Let's speak about like community support. Do you think community support in general is enabling individuals with Duchenne to participate in sports? Or does it play any huge role?
Yeah, well, already the awareness that there are people around with Duchenne who might like to sport. Otherwise that would not happen. So I think the community plays an important role also to set, like we had a conference where PSV came with their champions, what do you call it?
Champions League
Played.
trophy.
Yeah, they came.
Wow.
They came for all the children with Duchenne.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah. And so they played with them, and they had and they had a lot of fun, and of course a lot of pictures. Even the speakers left the conference to go on the picture with the guys from PSV. So I think that is super important. Yeah. That's the community. Without the community, we would not have a meeting with all these kids with, for example, PSV.
In the end, it's all about the kids and the people with Duchenne.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of good people in the world, everywhere you come, there are a lot of kind people. You only have to find them, and you have to kind of facilitate that something is happening. That's such a good sentence
to say.
Yeah.
That's, wow. That was a good sentence. I need to say once again. I have a different question now, because we know you've been in the field for a long time. Mm-hmm. You met many people, you heard many stories, and not only with the Duchenne, but broad. I have a question, over your 3 decades of work, what have been some of the most challenging obstacles you have encountered in advocating for Duchenne patients, and how did you manage to overcome them?
Well, basically it is that there are fantastic people at the other side of the table, but also super arrogant people. So arrogancy is one of the most clinicians who think oh, I know it all because I'm a doctor. Or I think that was the most frustrating part. And when you speak to them for a while, then that's gone, of course, because they know what we are doing and so on. But I'm surprised that every time you meet new people, it might happen again to you. And also, I'm never personally discriminated kind of as a woman, never ever, my whole life, never ever ever. Except when you come in this field, you're really, as a parent, you're like your IQ is dropping 20 points when you have a sick kid, Yes. And I'm a dentist myself, but they really treat you like, you don't know, what do you know? I know. So that is, but on the other hand, that's only a small group, and they are not the best anyway. So, but sometimes you have to pass them to get somewhere done, for example, in your country.
Which you have done, as we can all see that you've been fighting your whole life.
Yeah, but there are also amazing people, amazing clinicians that you never would expect that they would do this. And till today, today I finalized the program for a conference. We are organizing an online conference, so also clinicians and families from deprived countries can participate. And then
that's really important, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody, it's not only, equity is super important, but it's not easy in a disease like this around the globe. But one of the things is education and free education. That's what we do. But then I'm kind of touched when I see that everybody you ask, as a speaker, for example, say, oh, yes, of course, I love to do, or if they can't do it, they say, oh, can I pre-record, or can I bring somebody else? So how many people are interested and willing to help? So I feel very fortunate there. Researchers, clinicians, amazing.
But you go the example. I myself feel privileged now to be sitting here with you behind one table, because you are this person worldwide, it's a huge opportunity for me to just discuss this stuff with you. And I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful for that. But we know that you stepped down from your Duchenne Parents Project organization, foundation.
Yeah.
And I need to ask, are there any strategic goals for Duchenne, World Duchenne Organization, and how do you envision the role of patient organization evolving in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, if you look back for 30 years, it has evolved, and if it goes on along these lines. So in fact, there's two things. You want to be at the point of what's happening, in research, what's possible, get it implemented. First, make sure that the knowledge is there. And if the knowledge is there and it's proven, something is proven to work, that it then gets to the patients. And then it's important it gets to the patient worldwide, which is not always easy.
Absolutely not, because we know that you, as World Duchenne Organization, is representing over 50 patient organization globally, and that's
but the education we give to clinicians in 72 countries. So last year there were over 700 clinicians participating from 72 countries, and we hope this year it's even more, because imagine, at least that's what touched me, there was a clinician from a very small Pacific island, but he had one patient with Duchenne. Yes. How would you ever educate a single doctor on the small Pacific? He can't go to a conference or whatever. And the conferences are the in-person conference, and they are limited anyway. So that is really nice. We will have to keep doing this. That's one thing. But meanwhile, we also do a lot of other things. And one of them and is the emergency program.
Yes.
And that means that in disasters, wars, whatever, we try to do the extra things which are needed for Duchenne families. But we only can do that if we have a local organization at the ground. Otherwise, you can't really be very helpful. But we did it like in Ukraine, Turkey with the earthquake, Brazil with the flooding, etc. Yeah.
Wow, simply wow, I need to say. Yeah, because you are helping worldwide, and it's not only with people and the situation there is nice, but as you said, also in Ukraine, where it's war now, in Turkey with the earthquakes, and basically you're planning to do this also in the future, I can imagine.
Yeah, well, we are learning everywhere, and you have to see that we start when we are doers, let's say, just if there's a problem. So, and maybe this is a nice story. We started, there was a blast in the harbor of Lebanon.
Yes.
And we have a very active group in Lebanon. So I called them and said, what can we do? What can I do for you? What can we do? And they said, well, ventilators and cuff machines, they are all gone. And
because we know there was dust everywhere.
Yeah, but it was also burned. There were buildings that collapsed.
Yeah.
A lot of families were in very bad place at the moment. So then I called the Dutch university hospitals. They have centers, it's called Center of Home Ventilation. And I asked them, do you have machines you're not using anymore? Because I knew they were leasing them. So I thought maybe they have machines, somewhere in the storage we can use. And then within 2 weeks, I think, we had, by half of my house was full with over 100 machines, which is, these machines are like 10, 20,000 euros or something.
I'm sitting in the house and I can say the house is huge. And when I imagine half of the space being taken by the machines, I just...
A lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So I was very positive till somebody said, and I checked with DHL, are you flying to Lebanon? And they say, yeah, twice a week. So I thought that's fine. I got a little sponsoring for the transport. But then people said, do you really think you get it there to the families? It's COVID,
yes.
Breathing machines. At the airport, it will be immediately...
stolen.
Yeah. So there was a bit of sleepless nights because I thought, how can I tell to these people who gave all these machines, I'm not sure if I'm getting them there. And then at the end, it was the Lebanese... Oh yeah, first of all, this is also nice to say. Then they said Duchenne doesn't have a specific status. So Red Cross wasn't helping, UNHR, whatever, United Nations was not helping. Nobody was helping because they said Duchenne doesn't have a...
So the organizations, you were maybe looking forward to from them to help you in this situation, just to get the stuff to patients, to people which need it.
Yeah.
Basically told you no, we cannot help you because you don't have status.
Yeah, and the Dutch embassy even didn't call back. So they had a number, but the number was and an email address, but it was one big black hole where all the emails ended up. So then at the end, it was the Lebanese army who helped us. They went with a truck to the plane, got all the things out and got it to the families. So at the end, there's always a solution, but sometimes it's a learning curve.
Yeah, but you had to fight for it. I can imagine it was not like army called you, we will fix the problem for you.
No, it was...
As you said, sleepless night.
Yeah. Having all the stuff here, they need it, and I think, oh my God, how can I solve this?
With the half of the house full of machines.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, true.
Maybe last questions, finishing the podcast. What legacy do you hope to leave behind all your work with DPP and VDO, and what message would you like to impart to future generations like you, being for Duchenne?
Yeah, well, I hope that there are more people like me and some others, I'm not the only one, who are really dedicated and also see it's also nice to do it. It's not only it's so heavy. It's really nice to work. It's such a positive energy you get, like with the story of the ventilators and the Lebanese army. There are always examples where people, you meet such nice people who are really willing to do something because they, like you, feel it is important to do something. And that is, And I hope always new parents, not necessarily only parents, but friends of parents, families will stand up and believe it's good not only to do something for your own child, but to do something for the world. And also to realize that we in the Western world are quite fortunate compared to having a child in Nigeria, for example.
Absolutely, yes. We can all agree on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope there will be a new generation, although doing things as a volunteer nowadays is less common than in the past, but I hope in Duchenne there will always be people who help.
If we will have people like you, absolutely, yes. I would say thank you for coming, but I came to you. So I'm grateful that I had opportunity to speak with you. And yeah, this was Elizabeth Vroom, and thank you for listening to our podcast.
And thank you for that I got the opportunity, and good luck with all you're doing.
Thank you.